All right, guys. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam felt the need, unprompted, to tell the media yesterday that Shedeur Sanders was not his pick. Let's take a listen to what the owner had to say about selecting Shedeur.
Good process, okay? And if you just told me, so we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all were going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening.
You ever watch a team do something so baffling that you just sit there shaking your head? That's exactly how I felt when I heard Jimmy Haslam speak. I mean, seriously? What was that? The owner of the Cleveland Browns, a man who has overseen the single most chaotic quarterback carousel in modern NFL history, stepped up to a mic and basically said, yeah, I didn't even want Shedeur Sanders. And he did it unprompted. Nobody asked him. Nobody put him in a corner. He just volunteered it. And I'm sitting here like, why? What possible good comes out of that? This isn't just some offhand, oops, I misspoke comment. No, this was deliberate. He made sure everyone knew that picking Shedeur wasn't his idea. And that right there is what makes it so disturbing. Because whether Jimmy realizes it or not, those words carry weight. They don't just float into the air and disappear. They echo through the locker room. They stick in a young quarterback's head. They tell Shedeur, you're not our guy. You're someone else's project. And if you're a rookie trying to earn respect in this league, that's a gut punch. And here's the thing. Let's not forget who we're talking about here. This isn't an owner with a golden track record. This is the man who's presided over 35 different starting quarterbacks since 2000. 35. Think about that. Since Tom Brady first stepped onto an NFL field, the Browns have rolled through more QBs than some teams have backup linemen. And now Jimmy Haslam wants to throw shade at the one guy who might actually save him from his own failures? Shannon Sharpe said it perfectly. You didn't distance yourself from any of those other picks, but this one you want to make sure everyone knows wasn't your call? Exactly, and it makes you wonder, why? Why undermine Shedeur like that? Why do it before he's even had a chance to prove himself? This isn't just bad optics. This feels intentional, like a power play, like they want to remind Shedeur where he stands in the pecking order, a fifth rounder, a take-it-or-leave-it guy, not someone they truly invested in. And you can hear it in the way Shannon and other analysts reacted. They're not just mad about the words, they're mad about the message. They know exactly what's going on here, because this is bigger than one comment. This is about culture. It's about dysfunction. It's about an organization that seems more concerned with ego management than winning football games. And if you've been following the Browns long enough, you know this isn't new. But here's the real question we've got to ask. Was this just another case of Jimmy Haslam speaking without thinking? Or is there something deeper here, something more deliberate? And if it was deliberate, what does that mean for Shedeur Sanders moving forward? Because if this is the way the Browns treat their future, then we've got a bigger problem than just bad PR. Quarterback battles are rarely about just talent. We all know that. They're about politics, perception, and who's already been anointed by the powers that be. And when you look at the Browns' quarterback room right now, it's crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders is fighting uphill against more than just defenders in practice. He's fighting the depth chart, the organizational hierarchy, and maybe even some unspoken agendas. Let's break it down. Joe Flacco is there, the 39-year-old veteran with a Super Bowl ring, who's safe, steady, and unthreatening. He's the classic bridge guy, the one coaches trust to not rock the boat. Then you've got Kenny Pickett, the reclamation project, a former first-rounder Pittsburgh gave up on after 2 seasons. He's a name with pedigree, a guy this front office probably wants to prove they can fix. And Dillon Gabriel, a developmental rookie, raw but intriguing, a long-term flyer who doesn't have the immediate expectations Shedeur carries. And then there's Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round pick who fell way further than he should have, who's supposed to quietly sit back, learn, and earn his stripes. That's the box they tried to put him in. But here's the problem. Shedeur's play isn't matching the box. This isn't some rookie looking lost, struggling to adjust. This is a guy who came out in the first padded practice and went 9 for 9 with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. The only quarterback to find the end zone that day. And yet, he's still stuck running with the threes, still throwing to equipment guys instead of real receivers, still treated like an afterthought while the safe options get all the meaningful reps. You can't tell me that's football logic. That's politics. And Louis Riddick, a guy who's been in those closed-door personnel meetings, has said it time and time again. You need advocates in the building. Players don't just climb the depth chart because they're balling out. They climb because someone in that organization is willing to fight for them. Someone is banging the table in those meetings saying, No, this kid needs more reps. This kid is different. And right now, it doesn't seem like Shedeur has that person. So what's really going on here? Is this the Browns being cautious, developing him slowly? Or is this intentional suppression? Because make no mistake, keeping him with the third team limits his growth, limits his chemistry with the playmakers who actually matter, limits his ability to prove that he can be more than a depth chart name. And that's what makes this so frustrating. Because if Shedeur Sanders is doing this well while running scout team drills and throwing to practice squad receivers, what would he look like with actual first-team talent around him? That's the question. And with preseason looming, the Browns can't dodge it much longer. Because if Shedeur keeps stacking days like this, if he lights it up when the lights come on, then the excuses for keeping him buried run out real fast. Let's call this what it feels like: mind games. This isn't just about a rookie adjusting to the NFL grind. This is psychological warfare. And it's not just me saying that. Even guys like Shannon Sharpe are calling it out. First, Shedeur Sanders slides in the draft. Not because of talent. No one can convince me that a polished, pro-ready QB with over 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, and only 3 picks behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football belongs in the 5th round. That wasn't evaluation. That was a message. Then when he finally lands in Cleveland, they keep him buried on the depth chart, running with the threes, throwing to equipment guys instead of actual receivers. And now, to top it all off, the owner himself goes public saying, "He wasn't my pick." Think about that. A billionaire owner, the guy who's supposed to stand behind his team, openly undermining a rookie quarterback before he's even taken a preseason snap. You can't tell me that's an accident. And Shannon Sharpe nailed it. This feels like they're trying to break him. Because that's what these organizations do sometimes. They turn up the pressure, they cut away your support, they make you feel unwanted, all to see if you'll crack. It's old school NFL politics dressed up as evaluation, but you don't play these kinds of games with just anyone. You do this when you want to test a player who threatens your system. And Shedeur? He threatens their system. But here's the thing. If anyone is built for this, it's Shedeur Sanders. This isn't his first time in the fire. At Jackson State, he walked in with the weight of being Coach Prime's son. The silver spoon quarterback critics said couldn't handle real pressure, and dominated. At Colorado, he stepped into a Power 5 program that had been a national punchline, took 59 sacks in a single season, and still threw for over 3,200 yards with elite poise. Shedeur has been thriving under pressure since day one. You can try to break him, but history says you're only sharpening him. And here's what really twists the knife. Look at how other quarterbacks have been treated. Eli Manning refused to play for the team that drafted him, literally said no thanks to an entire franchise, and still went #1 overall. Johnny Manziel, a walking circus of red flags, drafted in the 1st round and embraced like a savior. But Shedeur, his biggest crime is being Deion Sanders' son. That's it. He's poised, humble, working his tail off, and yet he's treated like an unwanted project. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. Is this really about Shedeur? Or is this about Deion? Because it's starting to feel like Shedeur is being punished for his father's voice, his father's swagger, his father's refusal to play by the NFL's old boys club rules. And that's bigger than football. That's personal. And if that's the game they're playing, they might have just picked the wrong guy to try to break. What separates Shedeur Sanders from so many young quarterbacks who've been chewed up and spit out by this league? He doesn't take the bait. He's not out here firing off tweets. He's not crying to the media. He's not letting Jimmy Haslam's ridiculous comments about not being his pick throw him off his game. Instead, Shedeur's answer has been simple: work. Quiet, relentless, calculated work. And let me tell you, that might be the most dangerous kind of revenge there is. Because while the headlines swirl, Shedeur has been doing what pros do. Reports out of camp say he's already mastered 98% of the Browns' playbook. 98%. Do you know how rare that is for a rookie? That's not just knowing the base installs. That's protections. That's audibles. That's situational football at a level most young quarterbacks don't hit until year 2. He's preparing like a guy who expects to play, not just survive camp. And when he's out there on the field, even running with the threes, you can feel it. That huddle has a different energy. His teammates are responding. His command? It's obvious. You can't fake that. And here's the part that blows me away. He told his father not to come to camp. Let that sink in. This is Deion Sanders we're talking about. Coach Prime. one of the most recognizable faces in all of football. And Shedeur said, "Stay home." Why? Because he knew his presence would turn camp into a circus. Because he wanted to fight this battle on his own. That's not immaturity, that's wisdom beyond his years. That's a young man understanding the moment and protecting his father from the ugliness of what's happening behind the scenes. This is what people keep missing when they talk about Shedeur. They think he's just Dion's kid. They think he's just a name with a little bit of college hype. But what we're seeing right now, this is a player carving out his own identity, the hard way. No shortcuts, no handouts, just grit and execution. And the best part? He's turning all of this disrespect into fuel. Every rep with the threes, every snap to an equipment guy instead of a receiver, every headline questioning his place in this league. It's all gasoline on a fire that's been burning since draft night. So while the Browns might think they're keeping him buried, Shedeur's been quietly rewriting his story. And when the preseason lights come on, when he finally gets those real reps, that's when we'll see just how far this quiet revenge can take him. And if he delivers, the Browns won't be able to keep their future sitting on the bench much longer. This is bigger than Shedeur Sanders. Way bigger. This is about how the NFL really works when the doors are closed, when the cameras are off, when the decisions aren't about who can win games, but about who needs to be put in their place. And right now, the Browns are walking a very thin line that could absolutely blow up in their faces. Because here's the truth. If Shedeur goes out there in preseason and lights it up, if he proves in real game situations that he's not just some rookie project but a legitimate NFL quarterback, and the Browns still keep him buried, then Stephen A. Smith's conspiracy theory stops being a theory. It becomes fact, plain and simple. And you can't hide that. Not from the fans, not from the media, not from the players in that locker room who know exactly who deserves to be on the field. Think about what's at stake here. You've got a fifth-round rookie who's been playing like a man possessed, who's reportedly mastered the playbook, who's delivering in practice every time he's asked. And yet, he's stuck behind an aging Joe Flacco, an injured Kenny Pickett, and a developmental Dylan Gabriel. If he proves himself against live defenses in August and the Browns still say, "Nah, sit down, kid," then what are we really looking at? That's not development. That's suppression. That's politics. That's ownership overreach in its purest form. And if that happens, oh, you better believe it's going to ignite a fire in Cleveland. Because Browns fans, they've been through it all. They know dysfunction when they see it. And if this organization robs them of watching their most exciting young quarterback because of pride, pettiness, or whatever games Jimmy Haslam wants to play, it won't just be a bad football decision. It'll be a full-blown public relations disaster. But here's the flip side. What if they can't hold him back? What if Shedeur forces their hand? We've seen it before. Think Russell Wilson in Seattle. Think Jalen Hurts in Philly. When a guy plays so well that you can't justify keeping him on the bench, no amount of politics can stop him. And if that happens, we could be watching the birth of one of the greatest underdog revenge arcs in NFL history. A kid written off as Dion's son, a fifth-round pick nobody wanted to touch, rising up, proving everyone wrong, and becoming the quarterback of the future for a franchise desperate for hope. So here's my question to you, Browns fans. Are you ready? Are you ready to rally behind the quarterback your own owner didn't even want? Because whether they like it or not, this story is just getting started. And if Shedeur delivers when the lights come on, the reckoning is coming. The